Calm, focus, happiness.
Welcome, Mindful Tribe. Great to have you here on Mindfulness Mode one more time. And I'm here to talk financial topics today. We're talking about money, and we're talking with a leading financial advisor. He's an author, he's a public speaker, and he's renowned for his mindfulness approach to money. And he's the founder and former CEO of Abacus, which is a values-driven financial consulting firm managing over $3 billion in assets. And my guest has literally transformed the lives of so many people who have been his clients and helped them achieve financial success on their own terms with a whole slant on mindfulness. My guest today is Spencer Sherman. Spencer, are you in mindfulness mode today?
Yes, I am. And I think it was because I did a sitting this morning, and I like to say that money to me is the least mindful area for many of us, including myself. So I have this intention every day to bring mindfulness to money.
Oh, that's fantastic. So on that note, what does mindfulness mean to you?
Okay. To me, what mindfulness means is being very aware of our impulses, our emotions, especially like this emotional awareness around the domain of our lives where we tend to be least mindful. That's why there's something ironic about this, being mindful around money, huh? Well, I think it's the place where we really need to bring the most mindfulness to, because we've abandoned it for so long. And yet it holds such fertile territory. I mean, to learn about ourselves and to affect change with our money habits so that we see different numbers going forward with our finances. So we can start to pay attention when we're in the store. Like what I'm doing is noticing my excitement, my intensity when I'm buying, especially larger purchases. I feel this frenetic energy going, and it's coming from a place of fear often. And so then I can be with that fear when I'm aware of it. And then I can make the purchase decision from a much wiser, rational place rather than the fearful place. Because the fearful place will often drive me to either buy the thing because, well, you're going to miss out if you don't buy it, or not buy it because I feel so paralyzed. Neither of those is often the wise option. So I think this mindfulness with money is like, I always say it's not so polite to interrupt others, but it's fine to interrupt yourself. So when you're having those fears come up, those anxieties come up around money, that's a powerful moment to do this 5-second interruption of yourself and just see what's beneath that anxiety. Can you interrupt it, take a pause, and then see what's required, what's the action that you need to take with your finances?
Tell me way back when, what got you into this whole area of money? Why was that an interest of yours?
Yeah, wow. Well, of course, I mean, I was a typical teenager and my father was very driven business guy. And I said to him one day, I'm going to have nothing to do with money. I hate money. It's not going to be in my future at all. And yet I noticed that I was attracted to the nuances of money, to all the madness around money. I mean, that's the title of my first book, The Cure for Money Madness, that, I'm starting to see wealthy people feel this sense of scarcity. And then you hear about people who don't have money who feel a sense of abundance. And it was all so confusing to me. And that complexity, Bruce, actually became very attractive to me. And then I was at Wharton Business School, and there's a course in financial planning at Wharton and getting my MBA. And I said, wow, this combines my math background and my interest in psychology. So I can get to put those two together. And that sort of became this perfect career choice. And then I had, and I think I had this experience of a fire in my first job in the office building. And that fire ended up being the catalyst for me to kind of review my life, because I did something very impulsive that in that fire. I went into the building to retrieve my worthless laptop, and so I risked my life to retrieve this laptop that was worthless. But it got me to review my life, and to do that, I actually went on a meditation retreat, and that I feel mindfulness meditation practices are really they don't seem like they belong in the same sphere as money, but I think they're so connected to money because we're so driven by beliefs that we inherited when we were children, and those beliefs stay in us. And in order to overcome those beliefs, to soften those beliefs, mindfulness meditation techniques are incredibly powerful and very simple.
Yeah, they are. And I want to take you back to that retreat. What was it like when you got there? Were you a little bit out of your element, or were you pretty comfortable? What was that retreat like for you?
Yeah. Well, at first I just was stunned by the silence. It was a silent retreat. And I grew up in New York City, so I didn't understand silence. And especially when there's intentional silence, it felt so strange to me. And I kept wanting to connect with people. And at first I was connecting, I was looking at people's faces, their eyes, and then the instruction comes, don't even look at another person. Just stay with yourself. I said, oh my God, I can't even do that. And it was a 10-day retreat, as the days grew on, I noticed that my energy levels was increasing, that I wasn't getting distracted and diluting my energy like I often do. So that was an epiphany for me. And by the end of the retreat, I found that intentional silence was actually very powerful. And it led me to feel really very alive by the end of the retreat. And having learned some very, very powerful techniques for training the mind in a new direction, sort of creating new neural pathways in the brain.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. It sounds like it really was a pivotal time for you then.
Yeah, because I also grew up, I mentioned my father was a business guy, was so into money, and here I am in this retreat that's in the simplest of settings. The food is simple, the rooms and the bed is very simple. There's no distractions, there's no entertainment, there's just silence. And yet I'm sensing this I don't know, abundance isn't quite the word, but it was sort of like this fullness of life during this meditation retreat. I'm feeling like I have enough, like I'm not missing anything. And in my usual life, I was always aware of what I was missing or what somebody else had. But on this retreat, of course, we were all the same. I mean, you were just with yourself and you were just meditating. So it brought forward this awareness of the wealth that I have within myself, and I've come to see everyone has within themselves, that we often overlook because we're so focused on the external, on money.
Right. I'm so glad you mentioned that word enough, because that was going to be my next question. So many of us feel, oh my gosh, I haven't done enough. I haven't achieved enough. I haven't made enough money, or I haven't made enough of an impact in the world. So what are your thoughts on that? What do we have to do to be enough?
Yes. I mean, it's first to recognize the cultural current is so strong, and it's reinforcing the idea that we're not enough, that we don't have enough, we don't do enough. And all that is great in some ways for the consumer economy, because it gets us to keep buying stuff, to keep doing stuff, because we're trying to, we're on this constant self-improvement course. But that just leads to more self-improvement or more wanting. It's like we never get to arrive because we're training the brain to be future oriented. And a brain trained to find enoughness in the future when it gets to that future, it's still a brain that expects enough to arrive in the future. So what I say is that somehow you have to contradict the cultural momentum. You have to contradict what John D. Rockefeller defined as enough. When he, in 1916, he was the world's first billionaire, and a journalist said, "What's your definition of enough?" And he said, "A little bit more." And to me, we all have to contradict that by finding that enoughness right in this moment, not in 10 minutes or 5 minutes from now, but right now, to find this sense of enough sense of humor, enough common sense, enough house, enough friends, even enough money to find a way for your current finances to be enough. Because once you do that, to me, this mindset of enough is a launching pad for a lot more, but you're no longer grasping for it. And without that grasping, it's more likely to happen. So you're still having intentions. If your intention is to, have $1 million, $1 billion, or start a company, you're having all that in your life, but you're no longer gripping it as if it holds the secret to your happiness. You're creating this sense of wellness right in this moment. And I think that has been transformational for me and for so many of my students in my community, to start to find this enough right now. And, even when I meet a client who tells me they have like no money, I say, find a way for your current finances to be enough. And that is usually a very calming exercise to do that, to at least know what's my plan B, even if nothing materializes. I don't save money over the next 20 years. How can I find an enough life with who I am and what I have right now? So I often say, even if your New Year's resolutions don't come to be, can you find this enough-ness within? I have experienced that from that place, anything is possible. So this idea of enough sounds boring on the surface. To me, it's the most exciting possibility out there.
Right. I want to know what your goal was a few years ago when you formed the firm Abacus.
Yeah. So one was to sort of contradict a little bit of the financial industry, which is always going for more. I mean, I noticed that because I worked for a brokerage firm, and I would see people tell clients, well, when you get to $1 million or 5 million, you're going to have enough. And then the client would get there, and the advisor would set a new goal, or the client would set a new goal. So it was always a moving target. So there's always this sense of not enoughness, or what could say scarcity or fear in that sense of not enoughness, right? Because if you're not feeling enough, or you don't feel like you have enough, underneath that, even for a billionaire, and many billionaires feel that sense of not enough, there's a sense of scarcity and fear underneath that. And why live life from that place of scarcity? So that was one reason I started Abacus. The other one was to have an independent firm. I was working for a brokerage firm where there was all these conflict of interests with the commissions. We weren't fiduciaries. So I wanted an independent firm where I could say anything, where my employees could say anything to a client. They could recommend treasuries or recommend buying a house or not buying a house. It didn't matter to their compensation. And then I felt like it was possible to help people really shift their behavior around money, to soften. So I often don't say, we're not going to get rid of your beliefs around money. If you grew up with a belief that money is dirty or bad, or that I can't earn more than X dollars a year, I don't think it's so simple to get rid of that belief. It might keep recirculating, but by interrupting that belief, by doing holding some compassion for that belief, some other belief might emerge, or you won't be as attached to that belief. You won't act out from that belief as much. Like, you might hear the thought, oh, I can't make more than X dollars a year, but then you'll still apply for the job. That thought will no longer hold you back when you've done some of this work. So those are all the reasons I started Abacus, is really to help people have a new relationship with money, to not have it be just a firm that, takes $1 and turns it into $2, but that finds a sense of purpose and even joy with their finances.
Right. Spencer, you do retreats, don't you? I'd just like to hear a little bit about the retreats that you do.
Yeah. So these are interesting. So, this came about from the financial advisor community. Several financial advisors were speaking about emotional intelligence and how absent it is amongst financial advisors, maybe amongst all financial professionals, lawyers, accountants. There's usually not a lot of emphasis on emotional awareness, intelligence, going through business school, law school, accounting. And so she was looking around for someone who could lead a program to help increase our emotional intelligence. And she was referred to me, and I started something called the Mindful Advisor Retreat, where we invite financial professionals, lawyers, accountants, and it's a 24-hour retreat, no technology, no devices. And we do a bunch of practices to help cultivate deeper listening skills, to help cultivate what I call a beginner's mind, to help cultivate a quality of resilience within, so you're not so thrown by the ups and downs in your law practice or your financial practice. It's just this great opportunity for financial advisors to come together for that 24 hours and sort of let go of everything. So it's sort of this true vacation. And then they have this possibility of really connecting to peers and learning from each other. So a lot of the 24-hour retreat is actually not me speaking, but them looking at their own situations together and getting the wisdom of small groups within the retreat.
Do you have a retreat coming up? And if so,
Yes,
where?
Yes. So I have one coming up November 1st.
Okay.
November 1st to November 2nd. And it's in Northern California at Green Gulch Zen Center. It's right at the Pacific Ocean. So we use this place because it is just stunning. It's in the Marin Headlands. So we do an incredible epic hike. We go to the beach and we stay. It's beautiful surroundings and food and everything. So it's this incredible vacation for you're getting away from the crowdedness of your mind so that you can really hear your thoughts and maybe cultivate some new insights about your life, about your business. So that's coming up November 1st and November 2nd. And we attract people from all over the country. We've even had someone come from Canada. So everybody's invited.
Oh, fantastic. And your website is Spencer, just let me see here, Spencer, -Sherman.com, and it's Spencer with a C, SPENCER -SHERMAN.com. And I imagine we can learn more about the retreat right there on your website. Am I right?
Yes. If you go to the events page of the website on that Spencer-Sherman.com, you'll find out more about the retreat. You can see what other people have said about the retreat. You'll also find articles that I've written up on LinkedIn about the retreat. And while we're talking about my website, there's also a bunch of free resources on the website too. If you do a /free after Spencer-Sherman.com, you'll get a bunch of free resources as well.
Oh, fantastic. So can you share with us a story about someone that came to the retreat and there was a transformation that took place and it was just a really fantastic experience for them?
Yeah. So I'm thinking about this one person who came to the retreat and was feeling like her partners had some mixed feelings about her becoming a partner in the firm. And she felt like she was at a point where she really wanted to become the partner, or she was going to leave and go to another firm. And the feedback that she got from the small group and from me was to start embodying being a partner, to act as if she's already a partner. And, so we did some exercises around that about how to embody already being a partner, how to speak as if you're already a partner, how to start thinking through the issues that partners think about. So you're no longer coming from the place of being an employee, like you're thinking like an owner, like an entrepreneur. And I did hear back from her like a month after the retreat, and she did get accepted to partnership. And she felt it was because she really was owning this. It wasn't just, thinking it, but she was actually contemplating all the challenges that partners have and coming forward with ideas around that. When she went to the partnership meeting to see if she was going to be selected, she was now prepared to speak as if she was a partner. So I think that was a great transformation that happened, because she went from not believing she was going to become a partner to really owning it. So it's
What a great story.
Yeah, it's like even in that enough, sort of analogy to enough, like she got to the place where even if they didn't take her as a partner, she was already a partner, and she was going to find partnership at another firm. So it's almost like she was no longer grasping it. She was at ease. And I said, partners want to see that you're at ease with yourself.
Yeah.
Like no one wants the person who's like grasping for someone, like grasping for a relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a work relationship. We want the person that's qualified, that meets the demands of the situation, but not the person that desperately needs it.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I want to know if you have a question. I'm sorry. I want to know if you have a story that you can tell us that's related to bullying, because I've worked in this field for quite some time. Do you have something you can share about this?
Yeah. So it's just this is just coincidence, Bruce, that maybe not total coincidence. I mean, I think it's, education has always been so important to me and the culture of my family. And so two of my most significant nonprofits that I'm involved with have to do with schools, and particularly creating better environments in schools. And one is called Community Matters, and the other one is called Mindful Schools. And from Mindful Schools, I love this story that they shared about a boy who was having a lot of issues with aggression. And he was in the schoolyard playing at recess, and he wanted to punch another kid. And then he had the awareness that, wow, I'm wanting to punch another kid. And can I just be with that? Can I take a breath? And can I just let it be that there's this desire to punch this kid, but I don't have to punch this kid? And that to me is like the essence of mindfulness, that you can be mindful of a really negative state of being or action, but you don't have to act on it. And he didn't. So to me, that, ties in so much with money, like this awareness of that I really want to buy this house or something. I really feel the desperation, but it's actually not the right house for me. So I'm gonna let go, or I'm gonna pause and think about it, sleep on it for 3 days before I make this major purchase, which is often a recommendation I give. So Mindful Schools is teaching kids to do something very simple to gain this awareness of the emotions that are not healthy emotions to act from. So to me, that's a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. What a great story that is. As we move forward in the interview, I want to ask you 5 quick answer questions, Spencer. So just 30-second answers are perfect. The first one is this: who is one person who has been a powerful mindfulness influence in your life?
I would say, certainly the teachers that I've studied with. So Analio is a monastic from Germany, who I love. Sharon Salzberg and Joseph Goldstein are 3 people. There's others as well, but they have been, Rinpoche, they have been very influential, I feel, in my life. And created sort of an aspiration for me to really take the practices to heart.
Awesome. And my second question is about emotions. So how has mindfulness helped you deal with your emotions differently?
Yeah, so it's helped me like this young boy, this 8-year-old boy. It's helped me to slow down, to not like I don't need like a perfect example is one of my business partners sent me an email, and I so much wanted to fire back. It got me so angry, this email, and I wanted to fire something back. And then the mindfulness came on. I had this awareness like, wow, if I do that, we're going to get into a back and forth. And I just let it be. I said, go to sleep. And by the morning, he sent me another email apologizing for the first email and was all resolved without me having to do anything. And I think the point of the story is that mindfulness is so helpful when we find ourselves in that reactive place. So I think it's really shortened my reactivity and given me more options. Like in this case, the option to let go and sleep, go to sleep and come back to it in the morning instead of this attachment to reacting to it right now. And it's analogous to the investment world is sometimes we feel like the markets are falling and I've got to do something about it. So I sell all my investments at the bottom. And mindfulness might give us that spaciousness to find that there are other possibilities than just that one rigid response.
Right. Let's talk about breathing, Spencer. Do you have some comments, thoughts on breathing as it relates to mindfulness?
Yeah, well, there's nothing more fundamental, right? We can talk
Yeah.
about money all day, but
That's right.
if you're not breathing, it doesn't matter how many billions you have. So there's another place where maybe we can find a sense of enoughness is just with the breath. Is the breath enough? Like I've got enough air coming in and out. But I developed something called the money breath because I feel like when we're in that moment, like we're in the store or we're about to buy something, that's when the anxiety can really come on for me. So I developed this money breath as a way of getting more oxygen to the brain, because when we're in that panic, that fight flight mode, our breath gets very shallow. So we're not getting oxygen to the brain, even though we most need it in that moment. And we also need a pause so that maybe we can open our aperture and see more options for us than just, maybe buying that expensive car or not buying it. So this money breath is basically a longer exhale than an inhale. And there's been all this neuroscience, that's proven that when we do that, we really calm down the whole nervous system. We kind of move more into that parasympathetic nervous system. And from there, we can access our wisdom, which we all have. That's another thing, Bruce, put out there, that everybody has common sense / wisdom around money. It's just a matter of being able to access it.
Right. Yes. Totally. I would agree with that 100%. My next question is about a book. Is there a book that you would recommend that's related to mindfulness?
Yeah. So, I like Jack Kornfield is his book, A Path with Heart, is a great book. Many people, including myself, have found that very helpful. Sharon Salzberg, Real Happiness, Tara Brach, Radical Acceptance, are 3 books around mindfulness that, especially if you're, fairly new, all these, but even if you're intermediate, these books are all really, really powerful. And I want to say that the practice is, that's where it's at. And the practice doesn't have to wait for the cushion. So let go of the idea of finding 20 or 30 minutes. Maybe you'll find them, but even if you have 5 seconds or 1 second, you can take a moment of pause, a moment of mindfulness where you're just aware of what's happening right now, or you just interrupt a thought. You're about to say something to someone that is not going to be kind, and you're aware of it and you interrupt yourself. That to me is what has produced the most progress for me, more than reading any book.
Right. How about apps? Are there any apps at all that you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I like the 10% Happier app. I was on the 10% Happier app podcast. You'll find me there. I also like Sam Harris's app, the Waking Up app. These are helpful. I mean, I find sometimes that the app just is like, okay, I'm just going to hit this button and I'll have this guided meditation. And that structure can be very helpful when your mind is maybe racing, or you feel like today's not the day to do mindfulness. I just can't sit. Sometimes those apps can be so helpful.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Well, thanks for all of that. And as we move toward the end of the interview, I want to ask you if you have any final words of advice for our listeners, Spencer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say again, if what we're talking about is resonating with you, you can find those free resources at spencer-sherman.com/free. And then the other thing I'd say is to write down your intentions. There's something so powerful about writing your intentions down around money. If you want to own a house by the end of the year, or get to a certain amount of money, or you want to start a business, whatever it might be, to have an intention for that written down, and then to write down the easy, doable steps that you're going to take in the next few weeks. That I've found so helpful for myself.
Right. Yeah. Planning some steps really can make a big difference to just
Doable
move forward.
steps. I think a lot of us end up, going for big steps. I'm going to do this and this. I'm going to go to the gym, 15 times this week. No, write down something that's really achievable. Like, I'm going to do 1 push-up this week. Let it be that. I'm going to save $10 this week. Something small that you can achieve, because those little successes start to snowball, and then you can keep ratcheting up the intentions.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's been so good to talk to you, Spencer, and thanks for doing what you do and share all of this information so that people can be more mindful with their money.
Yes, Bruce, it's been great. You're offering such an amazing service to bring mindfulness to this dark corner that has gotten so little attention. So thank you for what you're doing.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Bye for now.